Welcome to Silicon Valley Asian Business Talk. This is Roger Chen from University of San Francisco. In this video program, we interview business leaders, entrepreneurs, and leading experts from San Francisco, Silicon Valley, Asia, and beyond. This program is sponsored by University of San Francisco Center for Business Studies and Innovation in Asia Pacific. Hello, this is Roger Chen from University of San Francisco Center for Business Studies and Innovation Asia Pacific, or CBSI Asia Pacific. And today we are very pleased to have Vinnie Gupta coming to talk to us. Thank you, Vinnie.
Thank you, Roger.
Yeah, why don't you briefly introduce yourself and also your company?
Absolutely, Roger. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's an honor. Several of our students have been to your university. My vice president programs with a doctorate in education from USF. It's a great honor. My name is Vinnie Gupta. I am president of UCEazy, spelled as UCEazy, College Admissions Academy. Our mission is to help students stand out in college admissions.
The first question I have is about your practice and your strategy in dealing with the competition, and more specifically in your strategy practice. Do you mainly kind of monitoring competitors' moves and respond to their move as part of your strategy, or you pay close attention to customers, to understand their needs, rather than kind of monitoring and responding to competitors' move?
I love this question. The short answer is that our biggest focus is on an unmet customer need. And are the current solutions working for them or not? Brand name competition, you kind of keep them somewhere in the side view mirror or some such thing, but the bigger competition thing, I have a full-time MBA and from a prestigious institute in India called the Indian Institute of Management. And one of the key frameworks that I got from there is the Michael Porter competitive strategy model. I have a feeling I'm preaching to the choir here because you guys live in this world. I'm a big believer that competition's got to be, you need to look at this brand name. I think brand name competition comes at a much lower level. Highest level is generic competition. And as a part of that, a big competition is also for the customer not to do anything. Inaction is a competition also. So I try to take a holistic view. In what we try to do, actually, if you ask me what is your biggest competition, customer staying where they are and not doing anything. So to take that latent need and to convert that into an active need is a big competition. So, but overall, I think we just got to, for future entrepreneurs, I really think that the best way to look at this is that where is a unmet market need, and the pain of that to your target customer base is that so intense that they just say, you know what, I can't live with it. Anything short of that, you'll spend a lot of time educating the market. And brand name competition, I mean, there are certain strategies, Roger, where you go into mature markets and you compete against competition and in some different ways, right? You can do that, but by and large, I think it's much easier to find a white space in the market and go after that.
That's a great point. So very briefly, what you mentioned, the brand name competition, could you just very briefly clarify that term? What do you mean by that?
Brand name competition would be that for a certain market category, like for example, in the world that we are in, college admissions counseling is the genre. And there are companies there that have been doing this even before UCEazy started, and individuals there. So there are a handful of companies with some kind of brand recognition. We really don't pay much attention to that. What we're trying to do is to change the playing field. Conceptually, like Uber made yellow cabs redundant. I think that the biggest gains will come if you define a new market category.
Yeah, actually, we have a term called the blue ocean strategy.
Thank you. Exactly,
That's
the
great.
blue ocean strategy.
Yeah.
And it works in real world. Going against other brand names is very attritional, and it ain't fun, I can tell you that, because I'm an ideas guy, right? I enjoy creating big solutions. Fighting against some other brand name people, the way I look at this is that I have limited time on this earth. Why am I doing something that's been done a billion times
By
before?
other people, that's a great point.
I mean, people, companies fighting against other companies, it's not new. Countries fighting against other countries is not new. I don't want to go there. It's like I have limited life.
That's a great point. Thank you. Actually, that kind of, it's a very natural segue to my next question. In other words, in your strategy or in your business practice, you do a lot of like a customer potential needs discoveries kind of thing.
Indeed.
So the next question, maybe already touched upon, is about innovation. Innovation basically means you improve your products, your feature, or you just go out to explore very, very new products, very new features. So typically, if you categorize them, some of those exploring innovation activities, because they are very new, very, very uncertain, so they tend to be risky, but potentially have a higher return. And sometimes we call this type of innovation radical innovation, while on the other extreme is kind of a conservative, low risk, but incremental improvement of your offerings or features. So the question is, as a company, does your company kind of continuously and also proactively search for these so-called radical innovation, the very new, very different, highly risky, but highly potential return type of innovation activities?
Yeah, Roger, in our case, we've actually done the more incremental type stuff. And that is because we are still self-funded.
Self-funded, okay.
If we
financial consideration. Yeah.
Right, so we need to manage cash flow, and we're essentially growing through internal accruals. But if we had external funding available, we could go for completely game-changing innovation, which is actually what we now want to do, because now we have a very clear picture of what we want to do and how we want to get there. So I think from my perspective, it will depend upon the funding situation of the company and how much cash or how much capital.
That's excellent point.
Do you have to play with?
Yeah, so it's kind of in other words, your capability of dealing with this kind of risk or the consequence of those risks. So relating to that, maybe this additional question, because earlier you said you as a company, you put a lot of efforts on so-called the unmet needs and discover customer needs. So how do you, what is the process or what is the methodology to uncover those unmet needs? And so do you always guarantee those unmet needs can only be satisfied through your incremental changes, or sometimes it requires major changes on your business or your offerings?
Yeah, excellent question. In our case, Roger, specifically, the first thing is that when we started UCEazy about 8 years back or so, the problem that we were trying to solve is something that I personally experienced.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of times, don't they say that that the best entrepreneur or the best ideas come from something that you personally relate to?
Yeah, yeah.
So in this case, as I mentioned before, that UCEazy helps students with college admissions, and my journey was that I'm an immigrant into this country. So it's my wife, and when we came to this country from India 30 years back with our 2-year-old daughter, both of us, my wife and I, we were highly educated, professionally successful back in India. But we didn't have any first-hand experience of the US elementary school, middle school, high school, college admissions, college, careers. We had no idea. Cultural, values, everything was different. So we really struggled with all of that. So based on that, I said, if highly educated, and I'm not stupid, I mean, I'm not being immodest, but I'm a smart guy. And my wife, she's very smart, she's actually even a school teacher in Cupertino where we live. If the two of us are struggling, imagine millions of other families.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, Roger, in this case, how did we get to the unmet need? We felt it. And in the immigrant social ecosystem that we live in, everybody was going through that. The idea was a no-brainer. Now, how to solve that problem? That has been a journey. Initially, we started based upon how others were solving that problem. We applied those solutions. Then we just realized that none of those are working. And then we kept adding. And then we said, okay, if our goal is 10 on a 10-point scale, this has now taken us to 5, incrementally 2 more. And then recently, we realized that, you know what? We can look at this whole thing so differently that the goalpost can move from 10 to a 30.
Oh.
Right? Where we just think of the whole thing so differently that we can just change the game overall. But to be very candid, neither my team nor I, we could not have thought like this unless we went through the journey. Now, there could be some entrepreneurs who are just much more brilliant than I am. There are, right? And some people who would think of this 30 right at the onset. I mean, those are the people that obviously become those huge unicorns.
Maybe you can call them visionary because they can see so far. Yeah.
Right.
But so here, relating to that, that's fascinating kind of a point. So on this journey, as you mentioned, you look at the similar problem in a very, very different way, in a new light. You're kind of reframing this whole issue. Does that sometimes involve or require you to do some very, very radical change on your operation, the business model, to the point, then it's kind of risky choice for you?
Totally, Roger. And we are actually going through that right now.
Oh.
But we realize that this transition is going to be painful. But I feel comfortable as the leader of the team that now is the time to do it because all of us have the conviction that where we are going is the right thing to do.
Okay.
So we would have to shed old habits. We would have to go for different team not because the old team members were not good, because the thinking doesn't apply. So absolutely, Roger, it'll require a churn, it'll require a different way of thinking, but we got to do all this while protecting our revenue stream or not hurting it.
Yeah.
But above all, and this is very critical for anyone, that above all to keep our promises to the customers that we have acquired through the old model.
So you want to minimize the disruption on the customer experience as you're making those changes or transitions.
Yeah. And it also, from a moral and an ethical perspective, those customers did not decide to make that change, we did. So whatever promises we make to them, I think those promises morally and ethically have to be kept. Otherwise, how do you sleep at night? At least I don't.
Yeah, that's a very good point.